One is to have sufficient skill in an industry Australia really needs, like petrochemical engineers or doctors or, bizarrely, hairdressers? Sadly, shiftless layabout is fairly far down the skills shortage list. In fact, it's not on it at all. So we'd have been stuffed if it wasn't for this. The second-year working holiday visa. I mean, really, read that again. How sweet is that? Designed expressly for people who can't face the harsh reality of going back to the real world, this scheme couldn't have been more perfectly timed for us. There was only one major drawback. It required us to do 3 months of agricultural work. 3 months. Ouch. And what's more, this 3 months' work had to be completed and signed off by an approved person before the first year's visa was up. Now, I don't know if you remember, but when I originally promised Jill that I'd come to Australia with her, I was sort of delayed. As in, I didn't want to leave Thailand, so I stayed there as long as I possibly could and only came to Australia because I could no longer afford to eat in Thailand. And let me tell you, eating is pretty damn cheap in Thailand. As it happened, I'd kept the poor girl waiting almost exactly 3 months, which, although it was utterly forgivable and not really my fault in the first place, being as how Thailand is awesome, well, anyway, it put us in the following position. It was New Year's Day. It was only halfway through my adventures around Australia because I had 6 months left on my visa, but Jill only had 3. Damn it, Jill! So all of a sudden, instead of relaxing by the pool and dreaming up ridiculous resolutions to break, we had another, rather more pressing agenda. We had to find jobs. In agriculture, whatever the hell that is. I don't know, tractors and shit. Like, right freaking now. So, New Year's Day was spent packing the car, checking out of our beloved underground hostel, pointing rusty southwards, and driving through the blistering heat of the day for 8 hours straight. But Jill did the driving, so I tried not to be too hard on her. After all, starting her working holiday visa 3 months before mine was an easy mistake to make. Rue came with us, of course, because she'd studied agriculture at school. She'd had her hand up a cow's arse and everything, so the prospect of farm work held little fear for her. Actually, this seemed like a good time to mention an aspect of Rue's schooling that amused me no end. As part of their agricultural studies, every member of her class had hand-reared a calf, feeding it, training it, and grooming it for a whole year. Then they'd taken their cows to a show and pranced around the ring with them, being judged for the quality of the animal on the hoof. The next stage of the competition was called On the Hook, where all the animals were duly butchered and judged again on the quality of their meat. Unsurprisingly, the whole class of 14-year-old girls was distraught. It's hard to imagine them getting away with that in England. Afterwards, Rue's cow was bought by McDonald's, but I don't think that cheered her up much. Anyway, when we arrived in Margaret River, either the circus was in town or else the place was just full of hippies, strolling along in crazy trousers carrying juggling clubs with multicoloured hair. The people, not the juggling clubs. We even saw one guy dressed as a pirate, in such a convincing outfit that I immediately wanted to emulate him. But I didn't tell him that in case he decided to rape and pillage me. As it turned out, the circus was in town, but that had absolutely no bearing on the dress code of the local population, which was skewed heavily in favour of New Agers, for no immediately apparent reason, and scruffy backpackers who had come here for the same reason we had. All in all, there were surprisingly few suits and ties on the streets of Margaret River. I liked the place immediately. Jill and Rue, being young female traveller types, absolutely loved it. Which was good because Rusty had boiled up several times on the way here. For any of you who are fact-checking out there, Margaret River is actually only 3 hours, not 8 hours from Perth. The remainder of that time had been spent sitting beside the road waiting for our van to stop making imminent explosion noises. I had a horrible feeling that, unless we made enough cash to replace his, well, everything, we wouldn't be leaving in a hurry. Our campsite, named with typical Aussie subtlety, was called Big Valley. If you can guess why, you win a lollipop. Rather than being within said geographical feature, the camping area itself was on top of the hill looking down on it. But what a hill! From behind the kitchen we could see for miles in every direction. There were clumps of forest, a man-made dam, Aussie word for reservoir, and rolling grassy hillsides that went on forever. It was like the Garden of Eden, only in place of a snake it had a stocky bulldog called Muzza, who marked his territory by peeing on every tent in the site. You know what? It probably had snakes too. The owners, a cheerful middle-aged couple called Kevin and Shelley,